Hello and welcome. I am wanting to show you a Christmas card that I made recently. I wanted to use just a simple set that I had gotten last year. It was this Momenta, just an emboss and die cut set. So that was kind of my challenge. The only additional things I used were these background stamps for like a plaid look. I'm going with a blue, kind of blue and silver theme for this card. And to begin with, I'm taping down my card base because I wanted to make sure that the design got to the edges, and if I had put my card all the way to the corners, the whole background wasn't going to get the edges. So that's why I'm kind of taping it off into the center a little bit here. I'm just using my Tonic Studios stamping platform for this. I'm wanting to create a tone-on-tone coloring, so I used the Distress Oxide Uncharted Mariner color. And I'm just using a brand new stamp here, so I already know it's not going to come out perfect the first time around. I am using something new here. This is one of my viewers had recommended that I try this based off of something she had seen, and it was to use an eraser, like a dry erase board eraser, to try to get a more even pressure on the stamping platform. So I am trying that out this time. I actually really like this. It works really nice. This eraser I got from Hobby Lobby. It was like $1.65 or something, so pretty inexpensive as well. I know they make some of those online where you can buy them to press down more evenly. They're kind of round. I don't know the brands or anything, but I've never had one or tried one, so I think an eraser works pretty good. So I stamped that a couple of times, and now I'm spraying it with some water just to activate the oxide in the ink. And what that does is it kind of makes that color look a little more light, a lighter color. After that dried, I'm going to use some of this acrylic ink in the iridescent bright silver color. It's just a fluid ink, and I do want to shake this up first just because it's got a lot of pigment and the silver kind of settles to the bottom. Just using a fine liner paintbrush here, and I wanted to have a little straight edge, so I'm just using some packaging to help me kind of use a straighter edge than just eyeballing it. As I'm going along, I realized some of the paint was getting underneath, but I decided that it actually looked more hand painted that way, so I was okay with how this was coming along. I did end up wiping it off on a rag off to the side in between sets, just so that that silver underneath it didn't transfer to the next area. So I'm just going to do this to all of the center pieces of the squares, and then I'm going to let that dry completely, and then I'll go in and do the opposite side. You could use a ruler for this part too, or you could just eyeball it. Either way, I just wanted to try to be a little more straight with my lines. This stamp set actually does have like a thin line that you could use, but I didn't really have a good silver that I could stamp with, so that's why I'm doing the painted on silver. All right, now that that is finished, I am going to put this into the embossed, I guess it's like a starburst wreath shape. So this is the embossed part of the set, and it looks really cool. I guess it's kind of like a snowflake. but it does look like a wreath as well. So after I embossed it, I went ahead and took my distress crown, iron gate. This is a Halloween color from last year, but it's pretty silver. I mean, to me it looks like silver. So I'm just gonna go over all the raised areas on that snowflake with this iron gate and see what that looks like when it's all blended out. All right, so this is what it looks like. It stands out now a lot better, and I did want to change up the inside of this piece a little bit. This set comes with a little hexagon shape where I can cut out the center piece, and so I did that off to the side, and now I wanted to have a really nice silver paper, but since I didn't have any cardstock or paper that was a silver, I decided to make my own. I'm using some Versamark ink and just inking up a little piece of 110-pound cardstock, and now I have some silver embossing powder. I'm just going to cover the surface with this embossing powder. I didn't go all the way to the edge just so that I had somewhere to hold on to, but you could totally fill this whole thing out if you wanted a little more space. I was able to get quite a bit of my little embellishments cut off of this piece, just this little size right here. It's almost an A2 size, just a little bit bigger where the little handle is. So real quick, I'm going to heat up the embossing powder. Now that that's done, I'm going to take my little shapes that I want to cut out of this piece. So in this set, it's got all these cute little pieces. I'm going to use the joy, this little decorative piece, a little swirly piece, and the little snowflake. So I'm going to cut those out of here. I'm going to use 6 pieces of each of the designs except for joy. I just cut that one out once, and this little piece that I had cut out, I flipped it around, and I'm just going to do a little bit of embossing to the outside part because I decided I wanted to put the joy words on this darker background, but I wanted it to be just the plain blue, not the blue with the design on it, so that it didn't distract from the words. Now I'm going to create my card base, just a white 110-pound piece of card. I'm making an A2 card here, so that will fold down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. I did have to cut down my little snowflake piece here just a little bit on the edges, but now it will center into the inside of this card base nicely. Next up, I'm going to put the words joy and glue those onto this little hexagon piece. And I wanted to make sure this popped off from the base, so I'm using some foam squares. But before I adhere it, I'm just going to set that off to the side while I put together the rest of this card base. I'll begin by gluing this blue design piece to the card base first and centering it right there on my card. And I do end up holding this for just a little bit. You could put a weight on this or something, but it did help to keep it a little more flat by putting some pressure on it for a little bit longer. For these little design pieces, they actually match the embossed folder. So I'm kind of putting them over the same spots, but they're going to stick up because I'm only putting glue on the bottom parts of these little pieces, and I'm folding up the other sides. So I decided to try on this one using my hand to kind of curve it a little bit. Kind of curved the top part and then flipped it and curved the bottom part up. Again, I'm just trying to give it a little bit of dimension so that it kind of sticks away from the card base. Once I have all of those down, I wanted to use this little Fiskars tool that helps to shape paper designs, and I'm just using it to kind of lift up the edges of all of my little snowflake pieces. I did one side first, and then I came back and did the other side. Now those look nice and dimensional. So then I took these little swirly pieces, and again, I knew these I wanted to have kind of popping out a little bit too, so I only did some glue on the bottom part up to the first two leaves there. And I did that for all of these little swirls. And these little swirls, as I was pulling them out of the die cuts, I kind of tugged on the curly part just a little bit that's sticking out, and that made it look more dimensional and more whimsical as well. So it's looking really fun, nice and 3D, very dimensional, and that silver is popping off. These little pieces are really cute popping out, and I really like how this is coming together. So next I have these little snowflakes, and I'm trying to figure out where I want these. Ended up just tucking them kind of in the background around this little snowflake piece. I did run out of my silver background, and I only got a half of a snowflake, this one right here, but I decided it was going to work out anyway. So for this first snowflake that I glued down all of the little arms. Then I realized I wanted to have the other ones kind of more dimensional, so I went in and only glued down 3 of those little arms. For this little piece, I only did 1 arm and part of the hexagon piece. And that finishes up the little background area. Then I'm going to just take that joy hexagon center and just go ahead and I wanted to offset it just a little bit, so I went kind of up and to the right a little bit, just so some of that white shows through. Give it like a little shadow. And that finishes off my card. So I think it turned out really nice. It has a little bit of a hand-painted touch with those lines in the background, but then the really pretty silver against the blue. I think it looks so pretty, and in person with the embossing powders, they just really catch the light. That silver does. So yeah, if you don't have any metallic papers that you wanted to use, and I know the holidays metallics go really great, I'd say use some embossing powder. I love this technique. It's not mine, I didn't come up with it, but I love how it turns out, and I think it just really levels up a card. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be working on some more Christmas cards and releasing those, so if you're enjoying these, please stick around and subscribe if you haven't, and like this video if you're enjoying this content. Hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for being here and thanks for watching. Happy crafting!